coming from a place of love, of going, everybody has their journey, and it's not for me to judge. And perhaps, though, there is a place from which I can serve with my unique, weird experience, to infuse a little bit for those who haven't had the luxury of their whole country falling apart at 10
Right.
years old.
Welcome to Be Bold Branding, where we discuss the power of differentiating yourself through your own unique story and standout personal brand.
If you've climbed the corporate ladder or the social ladder and still feel like something is glaringly missing from your life, you'll love today's conversation. We're joined by Marta Czajkowska, whose extraordinary journey from communist Poland to the heights of El Capitan embodies the true meaning of freedom. At just 15 years old, Marta set her sights on climbing Yosemite's iconic rock face, a dream that launched her into a life of global adventure and mountain pursuits. But it was a near-fatal climbing accident that transformed her path, forcing her to confront life's deeper questions. Now, Marta channels her experiences into empowering others to break free from their limitations and live authentically.
Marta, welcome to Be Bold Branding.
Wow, that was amazing. Made me tear up, Tonya, really. Wow.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, you make us tear up. Your story's incredible, and I want to share it with everybody.
For sure. Let's start, Marta, like take us back to pre-15 years of age. Like, what made you decide to climb El Capitan? That's a lofty goal for a 15-year-old lady. Like what? Tell us a little bit. What drove that?
Oh man, remembering that young person that I was, my world had just fallen apart. In many ways, my parents got a divorce, and Poland was no longer a communist country. So the system collapse that happened in my personal life at the time, which was my family and the collective, was such that at that age, I woke up to, oh my God, nobody knows what they're doing. This is just all made up. And I do remember kind of sitting back and going, oh, there are no rules. I am so thankful for that, both to the world politics and to my parents, because that gave me a boost in going, well, if there are no rules, then what do I want to do? And that was an opening, right? And at first I tried some drugs, I tried different things, and one day climbing showed up in my world, and I was like, oh, that's the one. So every once in a while we something shows up and we go, yeah, that.
Yep.
More of that, please.
And then that's what happened. And then, but out of all the mountains in the world, for you to choose this, like, do you have an idea of what made you choose that one? Like, why?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, this is funny. There used to be a really old school rock climbing video, one of the very first rock climbing videos ever made, called Masters of Stone. The guys that became my really good friends put that together. And as a 15-year-old, I watched that. I was at this climbing class, this climbing course, and I watched that video, and there was there was people climbing in Yosemite. And again, it was sunny, it was beautiful, there was great music. And then again, I was like, that is what I'm going to be doing. Nothing will stop me from doing that.
What commitment. Wow.
Well, isn't that, I mean, I'm sure we're going to get into this as we talk a little bit more on how this parlays into what you're doing now to help other people. But I mean, don't you think, isn't it a gift when you're that clear about an objective? I felt that early on as a young man to be an auctioneer. That was just a passion. I was just going to do it. I started it young, and then as soon as I came out of high school, I went to work at that craft. And I look back on it, and I'm so thankful that God gave me that that thing, right? Don't you think that a lot of people have a hard time discovering that thing?
Yeah. I don't know that. I think we're conditioned not to listen.
Nice answer.
I think we all hear this, and I'm not saying that it's a bad thing necessarily. Like, some people are having their awakening in their 50s and quitting their corporate career and going, that's enough. Now I'm ready to listen. I don't think there's a wrong time.
Mhm.
But if I was to say one thing, if someone's going to turn this podcast for a second and only hear one thing, I would want them to hear, when that voice shows up, give it a shot, listen, because that's the only voice worth following, really.
Yes,
so
out of
true.
thousands of voices. Yes.
And I think, I think one of the most powerful things we've ever heard on this podcast is I discovered there were no rules. And if there were no rules, then what was I going to do? What
Mhm.
could I do? Wow, what a question. I mean, we all, that's my takeaway already. And we're like, what, just 5 minutes in to the podcast. I love that, Marta. And, there was there was something that happened along the way. You had a near fatal accident, and that really, I'd love to know, because you're on the grind. You've peaked this mountain, and then you had this near fatal accident. Tell us what happened and how that changed things for you.
Mhm. Yeah, this is a great question, because this question um, showcases that um, even though I had the clarity and I listened to the voice at some point, I wasn't continuously listening to it. And I didn't have the clarity all my life, right? We have it sometimes. And of course, we can get better at listening to the voice, but there was a time in my life where I wasn't hearing it. And, as you described, I had been I've been chasing this climbing passion. I've been doing all the things. And I remember distinctly a time I was in Tasmania. I was climbing in Tasmania for 3 months. And I was like, that's kind of boring. And I was like, okay, something is wrong with me. Like, nothing is wrong with me as a beautiful person, but like, I need to change something.
Yes.
And the near-death experience really drove that home, which is, and it was kind of a great near-death experience because it wasn't all that dangerous, but I thought it was. So it was kind of the best sort of near-death experience, where I had a fall. I was in Mexico, and it took us about 12 hours to get to the hospital, not knowing if I had some serious damage. So I had at that moment, I was like, holy shit, what if life is not, like, I can't take it for granted. Like, if I can't take this for granted, and if I was to live, what would I change? Right? And it was that kick in the butt that I needed to go, okay, no more. I will no more just kind of coast. I'll no longer just kind of sit there and judge and like, oh, whatever, I don't know, I'm not inspired. And I was like, no, I'm going to actually do the thing that is difficult, possibly, but it's what I want to do, like I did when I was 15.
Mhm.
Right?
Yeah.
Wow. And so it took you 12 hours to get to the hospital. Were you okay? I mean, do you have any lasting effects from that fall?
No, I don't. It was absolutely inconsequential, which I just choose to see as a little friendly kick from God in the universe, saying, if you ignore this much longer, it might be consequential, but this one's free.
Thank goodness. Like what you're hearing? Hit that subscribe button and learn how you can change how you're seen and charge what you're worth.
I love your perception of things. It's really intriguing. It's very intriguing. You said that after years of exploring like remote reaches of the world, that a nagging question still echoed, like, what the hell does all this mean? Right? Tell us a little bit about that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was so fortunate to create my life early on, right? I on the outside, I was like, I'm not gonna get this career. I'm not gonna buy into this grind. I'm gonna do my thing. Um, and which was incredible, but it became sort of a self-imposed prison where I was judging the world. Oh, it's just all consumerism and it's stupid and people are in the grind and they're in their cars, and there was that sort of attitude. And what does it all mean for me was going back into a place of coming from a place of love, of going, everybody has their journey, and it's not for me to judge. And perhaps though, there is a place from which I can serve with my unique, weird experience, to infuse a little bit, for those who haven't had the luxury of their whole country falling apart at 10
Right.
years old.
Yeah, exactly.
They don't have that perspective.
Mhm.
Yeah, but because I think that helps, right? When we have these life jarring moments, that really helps maybe to clear some of the clutter and get to that voice that,
Mm.
like you so eloquently said, people, they were conditioned not to hear it. Right. I love The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. Right. I read it once a
Yeah.
year. It took me years of reading it before I even began to understand, I think, what the point was. I just loved it. It was so eloquent and so so many tiny, beautiful points in it. And then, of course, I think the overriding theme is a lot about what you're talking about, is getting rid of all of the other clutter in the talk and finding what is that one thing that matters, and pursuing that one thing. And a lot of people don't have, I guess, that such a startling, my parents are divorced. Well, we get that all the time, right? But my country just dismantled itself. It's like a total different one, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's big.
Exactly. Now, you talk, Marta, also about breaking free from stories that keep us small. I'd love for you to elaborate on that.
Yeah, that's another good
Mm.
part.
I'll tell you, actually, I'll answer this in my own story from this year. I think that might be relevant. So this kind of the setup of this is this. I got this client. She wanted to climb Aconcagua. This was going to be a 3-year plan for her. Like, this was going to be a 3-year progression. We're going to climb Aconcagua together and do coaching along the way. And once she decided this, she committed to this, I sat down with myself and I thought, holy smokes, I need a really scary goal for myself, or else I can't take this person on this progression from a place of humility,
Mhm.
because I can be like, oh yeah, your mountain's easy. Let me show you. That's not gonna be helpful. Right. So I sit down and I go, okay, here's my goal. And quickly, that goal, as I was working towards it, that goal became really scary. It was scary, right? It's a big mountain, end of the
Right.
world, right? It's easy to say, well, Fitzroy in Patagonia is really scary. But when I started looking at the fear, it wasn't that I am going to freeze on the mountain, although there was some of that. Most of that were stories that I were telling myself about me. I am not strong enough. I am too slow. I don't have what it takes. Blah, 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 right? We all know what those sound like, right? But because I was committed to serving this client and really, I was sort of doing this as an experiment for myself to see how I can serve. it was so much easier for me to see through the stories and go, now what would be helpful, right? Instead of listening to the story and taking it for face value. Oh yeah, you're not, like, there's so many stronger climbers than you, they should do it. Right? I went, oh no, oh, that's an interesting story. Interesting, cool. What would it be like for me to be okay? Yeah, the story's here, but I'm still doing it. And what's going to happen to that story?
So going from fright to curiosity, right?
And courage to actually take the next step, right? Because now, as I'm on the other side of this, right, it's been 6 months. I went up there, I attempted the mountain, I saw all my thoughts, and I didn't actually summit the mountain, but I have learned so much about my stories and how I act anyway in the face of the stories, and what are the new stories that can be a result of that.
Mm-hmm. I like that so much, and I also like the fact that mountain climbers. We just know a couple, right? I don't claim to know mountain climbers, right? But there is this thought process that sort of the ones that I do know that you just touched on a little bit, and you're like, well, I actually didn't summit the mountain, but what you took from the mountain is still incredible, right? So success isn't a destination to it, even when you're climbing a mountain, right? Success is the steps along the way. Would you agree?
Right, and to have gone as far as I have, and everything I learned on the way, is so much more than if I didn't set the goal.
Right.
Right. And we can transition that straight into financial goals for your company, right? If your goal is $15 million and you do everything that you can and you get in the process and overcome your stories and look at things from different level of consciousness, and you make $10 million, that's pretty good.
Right. Truth.
That's the old adage of shoot for the moon and you'll get a few stars, right? Yeah. Well, I want to segue, Marta, right now into actually what you're doing with your coaching, because you took these experiences from your mountain climbing adventures and where you had learned to break through some psychological barriers. And now you're helping other women do that. Tell me, first of all, about the women that you're helping. What phase of life and what are they experiencing right now that they would look at you and say, oh, Marta, like, it sounds like you could help me?
Yeah. I serve women in the third phase of their life. So they had a career, they raise children, generally, and then they go, and now what? Right? Coming out from raising children, giving the 20 years of your life to that can be a really obviously incredible journey, but that can leave women feeling like they don't have a sense of self. And so coming in, and mountains are just one way of doing it. There's hundreds of ways.
Sure.
And I work with women both taking them into the mountains and not taking them to the mountains. But to catch someone in that place where they've already done so much, and then they might think, okay, I'm 50. Like, who am I kidding? What am I going to do next? Like, but there's nothing. So many women think that, right? Or they might think, I'm so tired, I've done so much, I'm done, right? But they still have 40 years of life ahead of them. To infuse that with a journey of discovering one's own purpose is what I am here to do.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it.
Mountain or not, right? And I think it's important to give that distinction, because that can also be just a metaphor. Everybody
climbed a mountain,
climbing
right?
something, right? Yeah, we're or should be, and hopefully you're working with people like that. Like, if they don't have a goal, they need to start with a goal. Like, what is the goal, right? And
it's okay. It's okay not to have one, right?
Right.
It's okay. It's just that if we're not listening to what's being brought to us, or if we're actually actively resisting it, we might be digging our heels and getting into some decades of subpar living.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's a big takeaway too.
Yeah.
You know, because you're not fulfilling the steps that are established for you, is the way I like to look at it, right?
Mhm.
And we all have a purpose here, a very good purpose that we're to fill, and there's no small part to it, right? But if we're not doing it. And what would you say? I mean, I know what you're going to say, but I'm interested in how you say it to women that say it's too late. It's, I'm too old. You know what I mean? I'm set in my ways at this decade, right? What do you say to those?
What if it wasn't too late? If you still had 40 years to make an impact, if you have one day, what would you do with it? And we quickly realized that it's an excuse. And I mean, I engage in that. I say, oh, I'm too old to climb XYZ. I mean, I have that thought.
Sure.
And I get to smile and go, yeah, that's an interesting thought. We're not doing it.
I like that. I think I'll take that as the answer to what do you say to people that say it's too late? It's like, no, it's an interesting thought. We're not having it.
We're not doing it.
We're not doing it. No, it's pretty simple, straightforward. Marta, oh my gosh, we could chat with you forever, but I do want you to tell us, how people can learn more about your coaching offers.
Yay. So my website is called Masters of Badassery. There's some cool pictures and and some cool quotes in there, so please go and visit. And the thing I'm inviting all the women that feel stuck or don't know what their next step is to check out my community. It's called Bold and Free, and it's designed for women that exactly what I just said. If you don't know what your next step, or if you know but you're scared to take it, we have a great community of really inspiring women that we talk about this together. We do coaching and don't have to be alone with that.
And there are a lot of women in that spot, a whole lot. I mean, that's a really sweet spot of, you've raised the kids, you've done your thing, and now maybe even you've climbed that corporate ladder at the same time, and now you're standing here going, okay, now what's next? What's next? And there's this little thing tugging at you that's missing a little bit. We encourage you to join Marta in her community, please. And Marta, thank you so much again for joining us today. It's such an honor to have you here, and so proud of everything you've accomplished.
You guys are so awesome. Thank you for being who you are.
Ready to change how you're seen and charge what you're worth? If you're not getting enough opportunities to meet with ideal customers, or the prospects you're meeting with just aren't ideal, it's most likely your brand that's holding you back. So if you're a coach, consultant, or expert who is on the rise, you need our ultimate guide to a freedom-based brand. Download it free now at brandfaceguide.com.